Assalamu alaikum. Today I will be talking about a hadith on anger and how being a person that knows how to control his anger is much stronger than a person that is a very good physical fighter. The hadith is the strong one is not the expert fighter, but he who can control himself when angry. Anger is one of those virtues in life where if a person controls it, he can go very far. He can really make sure that his relationships with other people will be much more better and much more productive. He will find himself in situations where the average person might get himself into a lot of trouble, but this person will very much breeze through the situation and have no real problem. Anger management is something that needs to be taught at a very young age to reduce the risk of situations coming up as a teenager or as a young adult. Some people, it is easy for them to control their anger, and some people, it is much more difficult. Maybe it's just the person's test that God gave them. Now, there are a series of ways to control your anger, and there are plenty resources out there to help a person control their anger. For some people, it might be easier, and for some people, it might not. Learning self-control when it comes to anger is very important and it's very beneficial. It is one of those things that if you practice anger control, then there are things in life that will be much more easier. And the stronger you rehearse discipline in areas like this, the much more content and happier you will be as a person. When you control your anger, it is a very important tool to help when it comes to people skills. You will find your relationships with people being much more better and much more beneficial. People will want to be next to you, and people will have a much more loving and caring relationship with you if they find out that you are a person that is free of anger. Well, not free of anger, but that can control their anger. They'll be able to joke with you more, to maybe physically joke with you more, and things like that. When a person is angry, you never know when they're going to explode, and there's not that much freedom with that person. Also, when it comes to school and work, you will find that classmates and teachers will draw closer to you and figure out that this person is a hard worker, he can control his anger, and he's very productive. When it comes to the work setting, it is very important to learn to control your anger because there are situations where you work with a team, and this team will be faced with certain obstacles, and they need you to be a leader or to be a person that is a good problem solver and not just a person that gets angry. Religiously, holding your anger is very important because there's obstacles in life where your family might test you, or your school or your work might test you, or random people down the street might test you. People will have the unfortunate opportunity to maybe get racial slurs thrown at them, or prejudice, or terms when a person becomes prejudiced, or maybe terms of discrimination, and it is very important to deal with it in a proper way and to really make sure that they answer in the best manner. Sometimes it might call to control your anger and walk away, and sometimes it might call for you to stand up and protect yourself. There were many instances in the Prophet, peace upon him's life, where he could have done something against a person that might not have believed in Islam, but he chose to hold back his anger. There are times where people will walk by him, call him names, maybe physically grab him or hurt him, and he chose to brush it off. Later on, the time came to where he would have to fight back, and there's a time for that also. I would like to touch on two important stories when it comes to anger. So there's a father and his son, and the father really wanted to teach the son the lesson on anger. The lesson was basically, son, you really need to control your anger if you want to be successful in life. So the father saw that the son had a temper, so he told him, okay, here are some nails, and here's a wooden wall. Every single time you get angry, I want you to punch a nail into the wall. And this continued for a couple of days, and the son and the father both realized that the son is nailing a whole bunch of nails in the wall. The son realized that that's a problem, and he found out that that is something he really needs to change. So what he did was he actually decided to work on his anger management skills, and basically decided to go days without punching not even one nail into the wall. It started off slow, maybe 10 to 5 to 2 or 3, down to 1. After he got to 1 or he got to 0, he told his father, "Look, I've left all the nails in the past, and now these are the nails that I've never punched in." And the father said, "Okay, that's fine. For every day that you go without being angry, I want you to take one nail out." So one day comes after another, and the person basically, the son basically decides to take out a nail for each day until there's no nails left over. The father was very proud of his son, and the son was very proud of himself, to show that he really decided to work on a problem that he had, and a very beneficial and long-term problem was most likely solved. Now, I guess we all can say that in life, this young son is probably going to go pretty far due to his hard work and his effort, and his realization that listening to his father or parents when it comes to important topics is very beneficial. So after the son takes out all the nails and looks at the wall, the father comes and he says, "Look, son, there are all these holes in this wall that can never be fixed. Yes, you have worked on a very good deed in fixing your anger issue, but there are holes in these walls that really will never get fixed. You can try to plug them, but they will be there almost forever, and there will be scars. If a person stabs someone, yes, the wound might heal and the person might feel better and go back to everyday life, but there will still be a wound and the person will never forget. It is just like words. The more hurtful words you say to someone, the more they will not forget and will stick with them." This is very important to remember when thinking about something like anger. Anger is something that might not be emphasized in Western society. We are taught to be confident and straightforward and very tough. And when a person loses his anger, everybody will see that it's bad, but it's not put on a priority. Another story is the king and the sage story, where the person, or a very religious person, was known to be religious, and the king went up to him and he said, "I want you to tell me something good about my future." So the king sends a letter to this religious person. He comes to his palace and he basically asks him, "What good do you see in my future?" And he says, "I see a lot of good things in your future. A, B, and C." He starts telling him all these good things that he sees. The king is very happy and the sage is very happy because the king decides to pay the sage for everything that he's told him. I'm not sure why the king asked this also, but the king also asked, "What misfortune or bad things do you see for me going on in the future?" And the religious person basically tells him all of these bad things that's going to happen to him in the future, and with every little bad thing that the king says, or the sage says, the king gets angrier and angrier and angrier. And then the king thinks he is intelligent and goes to the person and basically says, "What do you think?" Out of anger, he says, "When do you think is a date and time that you are going to pass away?" And the religious person, let's say, sat down and thought for a little bit. And then the king basically said, "You told me all this good, you told me all this bad, and it's probably going to be true, so tell me the day of your death." Basically mocking him and saying that, "I'm going to take your life for all the bad that you told me." The religious person or the sage decides to go to the king and say, "I will pass away about an hour before you pass away." And the king stops himself and really calms down and really realizes that if this person said all this stuff that's going to come true, then I will pass away just as soon as him. Meaning, I better be careful because something bad might happen to me if I am angry all the time. A very important point and lesson to find here is that anger is one of those things that is very destructive and needs to be controlled. It will help you with your relationships. It will help you at school. It will help you at work. It will help you with your family. It will help you with everyday people that you interact with that you might not know, and it is very important. Thank you.